My name is Peter. I am 80 years old, and for the last 60 of those years, I have been a ghost haunting my own life. I'm sitting here in a room filled with leather-bound books, mahogany furniture, and certificates of achievement that have my name on them in elegant embossed gold. To the world, I am a success, a retired senior partner of a prestigious law firm, a pillar of the community, a model son who made his parents proud. But as I sit here, in the deepening silence of a house that is too big and too quiet, I have to tell you the truth before I run out of breath. The truth is that I am a fraud. I didn't live my life. I performed it. I played a role in a play that I didn't write for an audience that has long since left the theater. I am 80 years old, and I am only just now realizing that I traded my soul for a nod of approval from people who are now buried in the ground. I'm making this because I see you. I see you in your 20s, your 30s, even your 50s climbing that same ladder. I see you checking the boxes, wearing the suit, silencing that screaming voice in your chest because you think that's what being a man or being responsible looks like. I'm here to tell you that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, and the view from the top is devastatingly lonely. Please don't wait until your heart is brittle and your hands are shaking to realize that you've wasted the only spark of divinity you were ever given. Let me take you back to a rainy Tuesday in April 1964. I was 20 years old. I was standing in my father's study, a room that smelled of stale pipe tobacco and the heavy, suffocating weight of expectation. I had a portfolio under my arm. It was filled with sketches, landscapes, charcoal portraits, architectural dreams of buildings that breathed with light and shadow. I wanted to be an architect, or maybe just a painter, anything that let me touch the world with my hands. My father didn't even look at the drawings. He didn't have to. He just looked at me with that cold, gray certainty that had governed my entire childhood and said, "Peter, art is a hobby. Law is a life. Don't be a fool. I haven't worked 30 years at the mill so my son could starve in a garret. You'll enroll in the pre-law program in the fall." And you know what I did? I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell him that the thought of law books made my stomach turn like curdled milk. I just nodded. I swallowed my own voice so deeply that I couldn't find it again for half a century. I let him take that portfolio and put it in a drawer, and I walked out of that room a dead man walking. I spent the next 4 decades living for his well done. I studied until my eyes bled. I worked 80-hour weeks under those flickering, soul-sucking fluorescent lights that make everyone look like a corpse. I smelled of old paper and bitter coffee. I won the cases. I made the money. I bought the house on the hill because that's what a successful man does. But every morning when I put on that silk tie, it felt like a noose. Every single day I was dressing up a character. I was so practical, I was so reliable, and I was dying inside. I remember winning a massive corporate merger in 1988. There was a banquet. They gave me a glass trophy. Everyone was applauding. My parents were there, beaming, telling everyone how proud they were. And I sat there looking at that piece of glass, and I felt nothing. I felt like a hollowed-out tree. I had all the external markers of a life well lived, but if you had cut me open, there would have been no rings, no sap, just gray dust. I was a good kid who grew up into a good man, and all it cost me was my entire existence. The body, you see, it knows when you're lying. You can lie to your wife, you can lie to your boss, you can even lie to yourself in the mirror. But your cells, they keep the score. My life wasn't just empty, it was heavy. By my 50s, the weight of the life I hadn't lived started to manifest as a physical rot. I had these agonizing migraines that felt like a hot needle being driven through my temple. I had digestive issues that no doctor could explain. I was always tired, but I could never sleep. I'd lie awake at 3 a.m., the blue light of the digital clock burning into my retinas, And I'd think about those sketches in that drawer. I'd think about the smell of sawdust and oil paint. I'd think about the man I was supposed to be, and I felt like a stranger in my own skin. My marriage was a casualty of this lie, too. I married Diane because she was the right woman. She was beautiful, she was from a good family, and my mother adored her. But there was no fire. We were two people who lived in a beautiful house and managed a schedule together. We were comfortable, and as I've learned too late, comfortable is just a polite word for stagnant. We had a daughter, Sarah, and the most heartbreaking part of my story is that I tried to do to her what was done to me. I stood in her room when she was 18, telling her that her passion for music was unrealistic. I saw the light go out in her eyes, just like it had gone out in mine, and for a moment I felt a sick sense of relief. If I had to suffer through a practical life, why shouldn't she? That is the poison of the unlived life. It wants company. It wants to pull everyone else down into the gray. The turning point came 6 years ago. My father had passed away years prior, but my mother was 94, fading away in a nursing home. I was 74 then. I went to see her one last time. She was a frail shadow of the woman who had demanded perfection from me. She grabbed my hand, her skin feeling like wet parchment, and she whispered, "Peter, you were such a good son. You did everything we wanted." She said it like a blessing, but it hit me like a physical blow to the chest. I walked out of that nursing home, sat in my expensive German car, and I began to howl. I cried until I couldn't breathe, because she was right. I had done everything they wanted. I had won their game, and in winning, I had lost everything. I had spent 74 years trying to earn the love of people who only loved the version of me that obeyed. I realized that my father's pride was just his own ego reflected back at him. He didn't want me to be happy. He wanted me to be a trophy he could show the neighbors, and I had sacrificed my only life to give him that. A week later, I had a minor stroke. Lying in that hospital bed, listening to the rhythmic, indifferent beep of the monitors, I had a vision of my own funeral. I saw a room full of lawyers in dark suits. I heard someone give a eulogy about my dedication to the firm and my unwavering professional ethics. And I realized that not one person in that room would know who I actually was, because I had never let him out. I was terrified that I would die as a collection of titles and bank balances, never having been a person. When I got home, I did something that my neighbors thought was a sign of senility. I went to the local art supply store. I walked in, and the smell of the place, linseed oil, turpentine, heavy paper, it hit me so hard I had to lean against a shelf. It was the smell of the life I had abandoned in 1964. I bought the most expensive oils, the finest brushes, and a stack of canvases. I went into the garage, cleared out the golf clubs and the boxes of old files, and I started to paint. My hands shook. I was rusty. My first attempts were hideous. But for the first time in 60 years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't thinking about what a senior partner would do. I was just Peter. And then I did the hardest thing of all. I called my daughter. I told her, "Sarah, I was wrong. I was a coward, and I tried to make you one too. Whatever that music is in you, play it. Play it until the world stops spinning. Don't you dare listen to a word I said back then." I was speaking from my own fear, not from love. We both cried on that phone. It didn't fix 30 years of distance in 30 minutes, but it cracked the ice. I'm 80 now, and my house is no longer quiet. It's filled with the sound of jazz from my daughter's records and the messy, beautiful chaos of wet paint. My hands are always stained with ultramarine blue or burnt sienna. I have less money than I used to because I stopped caring about the portfolio and started caring about the work, and I am finally, for the first time, happy. But it is a heavy happiness. It is a happiness tinged with the mourning of the 60 years I can never get back. Here's the wisdom I want to give you, and I want you to feel the weight of it in your bones. First, disappoint your parents. Do it early, and do it often. If your happiness requires them to be confused or even angry, let them be. It is better to have them deal with their disappointment now than for you to deal with your resentment when they are gone. You are not a vessel for their unfulfilled dreams. You are not an extension of their ego. You are a separate, sovereign soul, and your only real obligation on this earth is to find out what you are meant to do and do it with everything you've got. If you are living for their well done, you are living in a prison with the door wide open. Walk out. Second, practicality is a slow-acting poison. Yes, you need to eat. Yes, you need a roof. But don't you dare tell me that a six-figure salary and a corner office are practical if they require you to kill your spirit every day from 9 to 5. There is no amount of money that can buy back the time you spent doing something you hate. I know men with tens of millions of dollars who are the poorest people I've ever met because they have no inner life. They have no passions. They have no thing that makes them lose track of time. They just have stuff. Don't trade your now for a someday that isn't guaranteed. Norman, a man I met recently, wanted to be a woodworker. He spent 40 years as an accountant because it was safe. He got cancer at 72, and only then did he pick up a chisel. He told me, "Peter, I made a living for 40 years, but I only started making a life last Tuesday." Don't wait for a diagnosis to start your life. Third, your body is a map of your honesty. If you are constantly sick, if you are anxious, if you are numbing yourself with alcohol or scrolling or food, ask yourself, what lie am I telling? What part of myself am I strangling? When you live authentically, your energy changes. The migraines I had for 30 years, they disappeared the month I started painting. The exhaustion, gone. I'm 80, and I have more energy now than I did at 40 because I'm no longer using all my strength to keep the real me locked in a basement. Fourth, success is a lie if it's measured by people who don't know your heart. We are so obsessed with impact and legacy. We want to be remembered. But let me tell you something about the corporate world I inhabited. I was replaced in 3 months. The firm I gave 40 years to, they sent me a gold watch and moved a 30-year-old into my office before the dust had settled on my desk. The only legacy that matters is the love you gave and the truth you lived. Everything else is just smoke. The trophies rot. The money gets spent. But the feeling of being fully alive, that stays. That's the only thing you get to keep when the lights go out. I see you out there. I see you in the rat race. I see you worried about what your father will think, or what your neighbors will say, or what your resume will look like. I want to grab you by the shoulders and shake you. Look at my face. Look at these wrinkles. This is what happens when you wait. This is what happens when you play it safe. You wake up at 80 and you realize that you were the main character in a story you never even liked. Don't be me. Be the version of me that finally picked up the brush. But do it now, while your eyes are sharp and your heart is strong. Deserve your own respect before you seek anyone else's. If you're in a job that makes you feel small, leave. If you're in a perfect marriage that has no intimacy, speak up or walk away. If you have a dream that you've buried under a pile of practical excuses, dig it up. It's still there. It's waiting for you. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or 60. The only time that exists is right now. Memento mori. Remember that you will die, but more importantly, remember that you have to live first. I don't have many years left. Maybe 5, maybe 10 if the Lord is feeling generous. But I'm going to spend every one of them with paint under my fingernails and a heart that finally belongs to me. I'm not Peter the lawyer anymore. I'm just Peter. And that is enough. I want you to stop this video right now. Don't just watch another one. Don't just think about it. I want you to go to a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and ask, whose life am I living? If the answer isn't mine, then change it. Today, not next week, not after the next project. Now. Call that person you've been avoiding. Start that hobby you think is silly. Say no to that obligation that drains you. The world won't end if you stop being perfect. In fact, it might finally begin. Thank you for listening to an old man's regrets. I hope they become your warnings. If this resonated with you, if you feel that same cold silk noose around your neck, please subscribe and stay with us. We have more stories to tell, more truths to uncover from people who learned the hard way. And please, leave a comment. Tell me, what is the one thing you would do if you stopped caring about approval? What is the sketch you left in the drawer? Share it. Let's start being real with each other while we still have time. The clock is ticking for all of us. What are you going to do with your one precious, terrifyingly short life? Go. Live it. For yourself. Not for them. For you.